Hi everyone, it's Elizabeth Stephenson with New Direction Family Law, where we believe with change comes empowerment. And part of how our philosophy of our firm is not only to provide expert legal advice, but to surround our clients with support and systems that can help them move forward and have the life that they want and deserve. And one of our best partners is Welwynn and Associates, and I have Dr. Brooks here with me today. And Dr. Brooks, can you just give us a little background about you, and then we'll talk a little bit about the philosophy of the program and what you provide here.
Okay, thank you. Well, I've been working in the mental health field for over 25 years, inpatient and outpatient mental health and substance abuse. I've done everything from, I was the assistant warden of an experimental prison.
Oh my God.
To running a university counseling center,
Okay.
as everything in between. I've also been a professor at several of the universities in the area in counselor education and psychology. I've been in private practice for a number of years as well, and joined Welwynn at its beginning to develop the program here that is intended to address the needs of professionals and their families, and folks who typically aren't well served by conventional treatment programs.
Right, and that is your niche at Welwynn, is those professionals and folks who are in the working world, so that they can get the support and help that they need, but they can do that and also provide and continue to work for their family. Right.
Right. Yeah. Our clientele here ranges anywhere from professional athletes to the self-employed business owner.
Right.
Folks who typically can't take time off from work, they can't afford to be away for a month or more to go to inpatient treatment somewhere, or for folks who are actually looking for continuing care or aftercare following inpatient treatment,
Right.
or for those folks who are trying to decide what level of treatment is going to be appropriate for them. We will assess them and work with them to meet their needs where they are at the time, and then we can either recommend more or less depending on what the person's needs are and how they're progressing.
So you really meet the person where they are. It's not a cookie cutter sort of program, right?
Right, yeah. One of the things that I often say is that treatment shouldn't stand in the way of recovery. Many times treatment many times treatment programs will have requirements that are more about meeting the needs of what a payer would actually require.
Right.
So what we do instead is since we focus on the individual, we will work with them with where they are, what they actually believe in, not trying to push someone into a treatment modality or some kind of support system that they're not going to be able to buy into.
Right.
That ends up creating a barrier to their recovery, and that's the last thing we want to do.
Right. And as the folks that we meet with, a lot of times substance abuse, alcoholism, or drug issues are really the sort of defining moment for the other partner or spouse, that they don't know what to do anymore, so they just have to split. It's like, I have to leave because I can't help this person. So do you, in my world, even though they may be in two different households, they're still family. And so do you take that into consideration? Do you work with the family even if they're separated or divorced, but they still have to parent, be a parent and be a unit in that way?
Yeah, definitely. When you've got children involved, then the one thing that is the best for the children, the healthiest for the children, is that there is consistency in the parenting. So even if the parents can't get along as a married couple, we should still be able to find some common ground so they can meet the needs, the things that are most important to them, in this case, their children.
Right.
And part of what we do here is we do have a more intensive family program than you see at just about all other treatment programs.
Okay.
Our family program here is at least an hour of family counseling per week.
Okay.
And that could be working on parenting strategies. It could be working with the family with their children or their extended supports, so everyone gets on the same page about what's going on. They all have a common understanding and a common language, and it becomes a safe place to explore the hurts that have gone on, and becomes a place to begin to heal those as well.
Right, and that's a lot of times that's sort of a barrier to the co-parenting piece, is that one parent has had to sort of be even when they were together, the other person was sort of in their own addiction and couldn't participate. So helping that other parent sort of let go a little bit and trusting the other partner as they work through recovery. Is that a piece that you guys you focus on?
It is. One of the things that a person, finds themselves in addiction is trust goes out the window.
Right.
They find themselves not being trusted, and it can be very difficult for them to understand that for a while they're not trustworthy, and having to relearn how to be trusted, and also the family having to give the person a chance to be trusted as well.
Right.
That's a very scary place for a lot of people, especially if there's been any kind of threats or threats of violence or just risk-taking that's put the family in danger,
right.
such as driving while impaired with the kids in the car, those
right.
kinds of things.
Right.
And that can be a very difficult task for people to overcome.
Right. Can you share with us what a partner or spouse or even an older, kids are really smart. Parents a lot of times go, oh, well, they don't see anything, they don't hear this, well, I don't drink in front of them and that. But they do. I mean, they know what's going on. So what are things that the family can look for that may be sort of red flags that this is more than just social, drinking or drug taking or that it's really an addiction? And then what can they do to help that person move forward in their recovery?
Well, the signs for addiction can vary depending on the chemical. But generally what you'll see, like in the case of alcohol, which is the most common addictive substance, what you'll see is increasing amounts. As the person develops tolerance,
mm-hmm.
they have to drink more to get the same effect.
Right.
So the amount they're drinking, the frequency with which they're drinking. If the person doesn't have a drink, how irritable or agitated do they become? We often think in terms of like morning shakes and things like
mm-hmm.
that, but sometimes it can be much more subtle than that. One of the levels or types of alcoholism that we often don't think of is someone who comes home from work most days and has a couple of drinks after work. Now, normally we would say, a couple of drinks a day is not that big of a deal.
Right.
But for some people, when they come home from work and they can't have those couple of drinks and they can't seem to unwind, then that indicates that the person has developed some level of dependence on that drink
right.
to be able to unwind.
Right, right. And then, so what are some ways, without being sort of accusatory, can partners and spouses sort of open that door to ask some questions and help them sort of see if they're open to taking care of some issues?
Well, most people choose to change their drinking or drug pattern when they realize that the things that are most important to them are not best served by their current behavior.
Right.
So putting it in terms of, you're doing this, is this going to help the kids?
Oh,
or
so sort of focus it on the children, not that person, but how it affects the family.
Right, or focus on the values.
Okay.
If the person's goal is to, be the best parent possible,
Right.
is what you're doing making you the best parent? For example, if you can't go to your kids' soccer games on Saturday mornings because you're still sleeping off the drinks you had the night before,
right.
then that's interfering with your ability to be a parent.
Right.
So instead of talking about in terms of you're a worthless drunk or an addict or whatever, we put it in terms of something that is more positive, the parenting skills.
Yeah.
Are you doing the best thing for your kids? And even in the absence of a chemical addiction, we would ask people, does what you do make you the best parent?
Right.
If on Saturday morning you're too busy working or wrapping up your paperwork from the day that you did before, then that's still interfering with your parenting.
Right.
And that's something that it's not value-laden because, we throw terms around like addict and alcoholic
mm-hmm.
and people immediately become defensive.
Right. And that's what you sort of want to back away from. I've heard it was a long time ago, but one of the issues for my client was that dad could never take the kids, would never pick them up at night, wouldn't take them to soccer, couldn't help in that way because they were drinking and didn't want to drive. So that's sort of how they took care of that piece kind of
mm-hmm.
thing. So even if they're not out there drinking and driving, it still can interfere with parenting
mm-hmm.
and the sort of dynamics of the family. And I guess that would lead into, there's a word of functional alcoholic. Can you
mm-hmm.
share a little bit about that and what things sort of to look for in that realm?
Well, the functional alcoholic is a bit of a misnomer.
Okay.
Because truth is they're functioning very well within their limited functions.
Okay.
There are certain things that they're not accomplishing. they may appear to be meeting certain goals, such as, yes, they're still gainfully employed.
Right.
Their business hasn't gone under, and they haven't had any kind of legal trouble. But when we talk with the person about, again, we kind of go back to what's most important to you. What you'll often see is for that functional alcoholic is their primary relationship is with the bottle,
right.
not the people that are around them.
Right.
They will end up saying, well, because I work so hard, and because of all these other things I do, I deserve this particular drink.
Right.
So all the things that they do end up supporting their notion that they need to continue to drink.
That to sort of function, I guess, is that's how
Right.
that came about.
And I also ask clients things like when they say that they're a functional alcoholic, then depending on my knowledge of the person and their situation, when we look at things like, well, if you're a functional alcoholic, when's the last time you got a raise or got a promotion at work? Because it may be that you're functioning at your maximal level while you're drinking, but what is possible beyond that?
That's a great thing to ask someone. A lot of times when folks come to me, they're just sort of exploring their legal rights and options. So, for me and other family law attorneys and anybody else, are there certain things we should, if we see red flags, and I usually ask, if the other person says, well, are there any issues about substance abuse or alcohol, and well, how many times a week would they drink and that sort of thing? Are there any other things that we should be asking to sort of help our clients sort of move forward and push them in a better direction, in a new direction kind of thing?
Well, I think many times families, are loath to start throwing out the alcohol or the addict. Again, because it is so value laden.
Right.
Because I imagine with a lot of families they don't hate their spouse. It's simply for them isn't working out anymore,
right.
And they really don't want to do something that would be overly hurtful or painful or cause additional problems for them or the children.
Right.
In this case.
Right.
So in a case like that, what I would recommend is, in this case, can this be the situation that will help the person to realize, okay, my behavior is a problem.
Right.
Again, am I creating the healthiest environment for my kids?
Right.
And as much as I don't like to see families dissolve, I also recognize that sometimes it is the least risky proposition for the welfare of the kids.
Right. It's not what you would want, but at this point, it's sometimes folks say, I don't know what else to do, and then they come to the realization that they can't help the other person. That other person has to make that decision for themselves. So, what happens when someone contacts you folks? Tell me a little bit about the process and what they would expect when they come to see you.
Well, when we get a phone call from someone, we ask them to come in, and I will sit down with the person, talk about whatever's going on with them. We do a no-cost evaluation.
Oh, that's great.
Because what my belief is, I have the moral and ethical duty when someone walks through the door to determine, okay, how can this person best be served or helped? It may or may not be with us.
Okay.
So still, I believe, it's my obligation to give the person my time, talk with them, see what's going on, an evaluation, and then make recommendations for whatever would meet the person's needs.
Right.
And then, now if a person chooses to come here and see us, then our primary treatment modality is what we call substance abuse intensive outpatient, or SAOP.
Okay.
Now we also offer traditional outpatient counseling, which is, coming in, speaking with the counselor a couple times a week, and we offer some ancillary services that I'll describe in a moment. But our intensive outpatient program is 9 hours of group per week.
Wow.
Plus we do individual counseling, plus the family counseling, and we also offer biofeedback, and we also do therapeutic massage as well.
I saw that. That seems like so, because it's got to be beyond stressful, especially if you're going through a separation. I'm having to come here 9 or so hours and have some family and that sort of thing. So you really are a holistic, sort of see the whole person.
We do. Our intensive outpatient program will actually allow for a person to be seen here 6 days a week.
Wow.
One of the things that research consistently shows is that the best outcomes in treatment aren't based off how much time a person spends in treatment, but the number of therapeutic contacts that they receive.
Okay.
Which means a 15-minute slap on the back, good job, can be as powerful as a 6-hour encounter group.
Oh, that's very, and I've never heard that before. That's awesome. That's great.
The power of an intensive outpatient program is we talk about a particular skill or an issue. The person practices whatever the new behavior is. Then they get feedback on it. Then they try it again. And when you're in an inpatient setting, you're doing things in a very safe laboratory environment.
Right.
Whereas what we're offering people is a chance to continue to live their life, make gradual improvements, see how they work, tweak it, continue trying.
Right.
So as I said, we offer the biofeedback is actually a process. It's actually a system called biosound, which uses a combination of guided imagery, ambient sound, with a couch that essentially will vibrate and pulse using different subsonics and physical vibrations. It's pretty amazing.
That's a good recommendation.
Yeah, it's. I've seen it take people who are having a severe craving for even something as powerful as heroin. I've seen them spend 30 minutes on the machine, and it will induce a deep enough relaxation where from there they're able to get on a plane and fly to treatment out of state.
That's great. That's great.
We've also seen for people who are craving a cigarette, and any smokers that are listening will know how powerful that can be.
That's true.
I've put people in there who are craving a cigarette, and the same thing turns the craving for the cigarette off.
Wow, that's amazing.
But the idea behind that is, as we begin to teach people how to relax, we can actually help to retrain the brain. So instead of a craving behavior for a drug, we can actually begin to teach them other ways to relax, to put that craving into extinction.
Right, right. And so sort of get the same benefit of, well, not benefit, I guess that's the wrong word, but it does sort of give them their relaxation, their high, you might say, and so that they can continue and function in their world.
Yeah, finding a different way to meet whatever that need is at the time.
Right. And then the other part I love about this program is that, especially if you're an executive or you're a professional, a lot of times, I know there's a lot of secrecy around the substance abuse issue anyway, but it is a safe place for people to come because you're very cognizant of making sure that they're safe and it's private and that sort of thing, right?
Right, yeah. The way we're set up is there's no name tag on the outside of the building that says Drug Treatment Center or anything like that. We're on the 3rd floor of a building. We have a discrete underground entrance in the parking deck there. Then once you actually come up to the 3rd floor, we have double doors. There's one small sign that says the name of the agency, Welwynn Outpatient Center. And that leads into a small entrance area. And then there's actually a code that's used to gain access to the rest of the building. And we also have a secondary entrance that's farther down the hall and around a corner that again has its own keypad. And all the clients are given a code, a special, a secret code of their own to gain access into the building. And because we're in a larger building, there are any number of other businesses in here. Yeah. We have attorneys, some other medical practitioners, and some other businesses to where even if you are observed coming into the building, there are a number of
other businesses that you could be coming to.
Yeah. So
well, I like that. It sort of fits with your whole holistic, whole person philosophy and really thinking about what's important and helpful for people to engage in therapy.
Well, and also, because we want to give some people something that's different, we want to actually encourage feelings that they're going to be able to be successful here. Right. Even our decorating in here tends to be it's more comfortable. It's more like a nice living room than a doctor's office. Right. Again, we wanted something that was going to help people feel comfortable, feel relaxed, not feel threatened by feeling coldly clinical or anything like that.
And that's why I love you guys, because we have the same philosophy, because we're in an old historic house and our conference room has a dining room table, so just sort of like you guys did it, we wanted them to feel safe and secure and get them in a helpful place. So tell folks how they can get in contact with you, and then what the next steps, if someone calls, I'm assuming that they would do the initial consultation and then you guys would set a plan and figure out what's best for them, right?
That's right, yeah. Our number is 984-200, and you have to pardon me because I never call myself, 984-200-2780. And we also have a website,
Okay.
Welwynn.com. That's WELWYNN.com. The story of our founder is on there.
I know, and I read that, and once you read that, you understand just how personal and committed everyone here is around the philosophy of this program.
Yeah, this was the vision of our founder and owner, Louis Finch, based off of his experiences in his own early recovery. Mm-hmm. He's been sober for a number of years now, and having actually worked in the addictions field himself, he recognized a need and wanted to develop something to meet the need of those persons. And we're the only facility like this in the nation.
Really? I just thought it was North Carolina, but really in the nation. That's a great, you have a great vision that can be spread across then to help other folks in other places.
We're hoping to do that, if at the very least by setting an example,
right, and
beginning to set a bar where, where the expectations are higher. All of our clinical staff here have decades of experience. We have another PhD on the staff. We have a clinical social worker with 20 plus years of experience. Right. And we also have another therapist who, besides being a counselor, also has 10 years of experience as a yoga instructor and a massage therapist, and about 20 years of experience as a dance teacher. Our groups themselves are Tuesdays and Thursdays from 4 to 7 p.m. Mm-hmm. We wanted them to be late enough in the day where the person can still get nearly a full day's work,
right,
but also be done in time to go home and have dinner with their family,
right,
or early enough where they could do a family session afterwards. But then on Saturdays, our groups are 9 a.m. until noon. Mm-hmm. And again, we wanted to do something on the weekends because that can be a big trigger point for people.
True.
And our Saturday groups tend to focus more on mindfulness, mm-hmm, which is meditation, some of the light yoga, mm-hmm, for folks, and again, we're using that to help teach people how to be aware of their own self, right, how to recognize when they're feeling anxious or having a craving, so they can do some other behavior instead
of that,
right? And that's part of retraining the brain itself.
Right. So, folks, if you know someone or you're having some issues or thoughts about substance abuse, I think the Welwynn is just it's just the whole philosophy of it that's wonderful. So please give them a call, go to their website, make an appointment, come see how they can help and how your family can support you and how they can support you. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Bye-bye.